Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
They love to put you in smaller clothing so it looks like you're breaking out of it.
Welcome to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast. This is the show where Captain Picard wishes that they hadn't made it so.
We're excited to introduce today our guest, Jack O'Halloran. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Welcome, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're really excited to have you here and have a chat with you today. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Jack, Jack has had a multifaceted career as both a professional boxer and as an actor. You may recognize him from movies such as King Kong, Superman, Superman 2, Dragnet, and that's just to name a few. But I'm sure we're going to talk to him a little bit about both his professional career as a boxer and an actor as well.
Of course, Superman is one of the movies I think a lot of people remember you from that are in our area of interest. So in general, do you personally enjoy movies like that feature superheroes or sci-fi?
Well, you know, Superman, you have to take into consideration that Superman was the very first American superhero, you know, in existence. And when we did the film Superman, it was probably, you know, one of the first real superhero films to be done, you know, and we broke a lot of technology rules. We did a lot of things that they're just starting to do today, cinematography wise. And that's why the film is such a classic. And, you know, the fight scenes and the flying shots and everything were so well done, you know, they wasn't all CGI and stuff like they do today. So it made it much more real and much more authentic, you know. And the whole theme of Superman 1 and 2 was the all-American way, and it wasn't killing everybody. It was actually having people locked up, going law and order, and Superman didn't go around croaking people. You know,
Right.
he was there saving everybody. So it was a whole different feeling and a whole different camaraderie, you know. And it, I mean, people often ask me, you know, about the role that I played, and when I the character Non was actually in the original story was a master scientist that they lobotomized as a punishment. And that's how he became a mute and stuff. So when they came to me to do the picture, and I said, you know, I embraced the fact of playing a character like that because Jackie Gleason was a friend of mine, and he did a picture called Gigo that he won an Oscar for, playing a deaf, dumb mute. And I said, if I ever get a chance to play a character that you have to do facial and body expressions with, I would embrace it. And Non was a perfect character because you had General Zod was a vicious general. Sarah was a man-eater. Somebody had to relate to the children because it was a huge child audience for the film. And so I said, I'm going to take this big brutish guy and I'm going to play him like a child, learning how to work his eyes and getting all jubilee about doing things, you know. And it evidently worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I know you were always one of the most memorable of the villains in that Superman, because I remember there were three of them, but when I think of them, I think of you. So
well, I remember when I first did that. I remember the first Comic-Con show I ever did, and people come up to me and they said, "Oh my God, you can actually speak." And then they, you know, and they say, "Well, you scared me to death, but I loved your character,
right?
Because it was like a child, you know, it gave a child something to give memory to, you know."
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I was glad that it came off very well, you know.
That's nice.
Yeah. Now I know, you know, as a professional athlete, boxer, football, all this stuff. I mean, you kind of had some of your own superpowers there. Do you identify with any superheroes yourself personally? Like, I mean, in addition to
I just, you know, when I came into the film industry, I was very, very, very fortunate. You know, I had probably the best mentor and the best teacher that you could have, Robert Mitchum.
Yeah.
You know,
excellent.
I did the first picture I did was Farewell My Lovely, and Mitchum was just, we became like father and son, and he was amazing. And he opened up my eyes to, and because of my sports and stuff, my timing and everything was always there, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, I had done commercials and stuff like that, you know, but nothing on the screen as far as acting and stuff. and they came to me to get into the industry several different times. When I was up in Boston and I was undefeated as a fighter, they were doing the Thomas Crown Affair with Steve McQueen in Boston, and we looked after him to make sure he was okay and all. And he and I became very good friends. And he said, "Man, you got to come down, get on the set. I want to put you in the movie with me, and you got to come to Hollywood. We'll have a ball." But Steve was a great individual. I liked him quite a bit.
Yeah, wonderful.
And I said, I think I got to give it a pass, man. "Oh, you're crazy. Come to Hollywood." And I said, So then in '69, they offered me a role in the Great White Hope with James Earl Jones, which was the biggest movie in Hollywood at the time. And a gentleman friend of mine, Raymond Patriarca, who was one of the more powerful dons in the country out of Rhode Island, had made a deal with Fox, with Eddie Foy, to get me off the streets, and they sent me to Spain for 6 months and to do this movie. And I said, I just knocked out the #2 heavyweight in the world, Manuel Ramos. I'm looking to fight Muhammad Ali, and you want to go send me to Spain? I said, I don't think so, And the producer said, "But I thought the deal was all done. You were just going to sign the paper." And I said, there's a guy up in Minnesota, Jim Beattie. He's just retired from boxing. He's a big white kid and got 6 mouths to feed. He needs a job. Give him a call. And I left and show you the smallness of an industry. I was leaving Fox Studios, and James Earl Jones was coming up the steps, and I was going down the steps, and he stopped me and he said, "Aren't you Jack O'Halloran?" And I said, "Aren't you James Earl Jones?" And he said, I got to ask you a question. He said, "You just told Hollywood to take the biggest movie in the industry and stick it?" I said, "Well," I said, "I don't know. It depends if you want to look at it that way." He said, "I got to shake your hand. I never met anybody that did that before."
That's great.
And we became good friends, So the industry's a great place. And, then when I retired from boxing, they offered me Farewell, My Lovely with Robert Mitchum. And I said, I looked around where I was and I said, maybe it's time. So I went out and they flew me out. I did a screen test, and Mitchum said, "It's either him or I don't do the movie."
Yeah.
So I blame it all on Robert Mitchum.
There you go.
There you go.
That's great.
That's awesome.
It's all his fault.
Well, it gives me a good excuse to watch that movie again. So.
Right?
It's a great film, actually.
Did you ever fight Muhammad?
No, we were signed 4 times to fight, actually,
Okay.
and I guess the closest we came, when he was to fight Norton, he was coming to California to fight me originally because I was a California heavyweight champion. And we had already made a deal. The guy that owned the arena was a Canadian kid. He had just taken it over. And so Ali, we were giving him 40% of everything. And then the owners of Norton were very wealthy people. And they went to Chicago with a satchel of money and gave it to Herbert Muhammad. And Ali called me on the phone crying. He said, I don't know how to tell you this, but, it's out of my control.
Yeah.
They made a deal to fight Norton, and this is what I got to do. So.
That's all right.
So then we were supposed to fight in Australia, and then I had a fight in Detroit with the best heavyweight that Detroit had, Alvin Blue Lewis. And he had fought Ali in Ireland and went 13 rounds with him. And then he came home and he beat Ernie Terrell and another fighter, and said, "We're getting ready to do another Ali fight." And they called me up to see if they could get by me. And I went to Detroit and I destroyed this guy. I mean,
Wow.
in fact, I was one of the last people to stay at the Cadillac Shirt in downtown Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
They had us on lockout. When you went in at night, you had to have a key to get in the door because
Nice.
there was the troubles downtown were so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
Bad.
from there, I used to stay at the Pontchartrain. But it was but when I beat Blue Lewis, I went to see Ali at camp. He was up in Deer Lake, up at his camp, and he was getting ready for a fight. And so I went up to visit him and say, don't you think it's time that we got on this rock and roll thing and started to play, or what? And he said to me, "If I give you a title shot, will you really try and beat me?" And I said, "I'll tell you what, son. For the first time in my career, I will go away to camp like you guys do for 8 weeks or so, And when you come in the ring, bring a gun with you because you're going to need it." He said, "2 steaks, please." We were having dinner.
2 steaks, please.
He was just a great guy. He was
Yeah.
he was a very, very good athlete. he'd have been great at any sport he ever tried.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So we just had a lot of fun, he and I, and he was, but we never got down to getting in the ring, you know, which kind of made. I mean, I was in San Diego, and one of my fights. This is how he was supposed to come out and fight me. I was knocked out about a half dozen guys in a row when I became California heavyweight champion. And one of the guys I was fighting was a guy called Rahman Ali, which is his brother. And I didn't know it was his brother. And he called me on the phone with a friend of mine from Vegas, and they were out in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And he said, "You got to do me a favor." I said, "I'll do you a favor. Come sign a contract to fight me." He said, "No, we'll work it out." He said, "But you got to really do me this favor." I said, "What favor is that?" He said, "You're fighting my brother Rahman, and you got to get him out of boxing."
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
He's insulting me, and you got to get him out of boxing. I said, "Rahman Ali's your brother?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Oh my heaven, I better go in the gym for a couple of days."
Yeah.
So I knocked him out in the 9th round, and he never fought again. And
There you go.
Oh, wow.
he was. So I called him on the phone. I said, "Okay, now let's play." So that's when we put together the deal, the fight in San Diego that got kiboshed by money talks and everything walks, you know?
There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
I wanted
Okay.
to ask you another question. You know, we're all kind of doing things a little bit different this year because of COVID. And we're always looking for suggestions about what types of recreation and fun and things we can be doing to occupy ourselves. So I thought I'd ask you, how do you keep yourself recharged? How do you keep yourself creative and focused in these days with all this stuff going on?
I have a stationary bike in my backyard,
Uh-huh.
and I bike around the world on it every day.
Yeah.
You got screens.
I take my cell phone with me, and I do a lot of business calls while I'm biking, you know?
We're
There you
biking.
go.
Good
And
for
I
you.
do.
Awesome.
I've
choice.
done a martial art for years, and a breathing exercise thing, and I do a lot of pakwa and Tai Chi. So you know, I
Oh,
just
cool. Okay.
exercise over and over and over. I
Keeps
just
you going.
keep on trucking, you know.
Good
Yeah,
for you.
excellent.
Now, I wanted to mention too about your novel, Family Legacy. It's a fictionalized version of things from your family and your past and things you experienced. But I also wanted to ask you, are you working on any other novels, any other books that we could look forward to from
We've
you?
got 3 more books coming out of the same
Oh, wow.
genre, and
Oh, nice.
we also have a book of Charlie Luciana, who was my father was partners with, and we have the last testament of Charlie Luciana. His son's a good friend of mine. He lives in New York, and Charlie. Everybody thought he died at the airport in Naples in 1962, but he actually faked his death, and he had some plastic surgery. He actually came back to America. He lived to be
wow.
102 years
Wow.
old,
Wow.
and nobody ever knew that. You know, there was a lot of backstory there. So we're taking his book and we're going to incorporate it with the books we have, and we're going to do a mini series that'll turn into a series.
Huh.
And it's going to be
Cool.
quite enlightening for a lot of
So,
people.
yeah, the true stories behind.
Well, that's the deal. The deal is, you know, everybody does these. You know, there's no crystal ball in Hollywood as to what works and what doesn't work. But the one genre that has never lost money is organized crime pictures.
Yeah, people like
You know, even when they do spoofs, they still
Yeah.
make money. And
Right.
you know, so what we're going to do is about 100 stories above The Godfather, because we're going to tell the truth and use the real names of people and show how things started and when they started and put everything together back in the early 1900s. All the illicit monies they made, they put back into the growth of a country.
We know most people have hobbies or something. While we're speaking about money, you know, we spend our money on certain things. Some things they invest their time in when they're not working. Do you have any hobbies other than bicycling? Of course, we know you mentioned that, or fun collections, like a collection do you have that you craft, or maybe what is it that you like to do other than your bike?
I have several projects that I'm going to make into films, and we're
Awesome.
building a major studio in Nevada.
Oh,
We're going to build a
cool.
4 million square foot studio in Nevada, which will encompass everything in the entertainment industry under one roof for the very
Wow.
first
Oh, wow.
time in the history of the business, where you'll have movies, television, streaming, music, database, water body,
Wow.
everything that you can. And we're putting a smart city next to it that'll house about 30,000 people, which will all be employees of the studio. And we're going to give them a 7-year work contract for stability. And they'll only have 15 minutes to travel to work.
Yeah.
Whereas where I live in Redondo Beach, if I'm going to do a film in Warner Brothers, I've got to face maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours traffic going back and forth each way
Oh,
every
yeah.
day. So, you know, you stop and think about the cost effectiveness of doing something like this is going to be phenomenal for the industry.
Yeah.
Cool.
As a successful person that you are in life, what would you say maybe to a young person who wants to do the things that maybe you've done, maybe either sports or acting, to maybe help them on their journey? What bit of advice would you give them?
You know, I think you have to take a serious look at who you are and what you actually want to accomplish. And, you know, hopefully you have some guidance from your parental period, but if you don't have that, you know, you pick somebody in life that you would like to duplicate, you know, and just get a fervor discipline in yourself that this is the way I'm going to live my life today. And I'm going to do everything that I need to do to achieve that. You know, I was very lucky in my life that God gave me a lot of talent in a lot of areas, and
That's
I
awesome.
abused a lot of it. You know, like in sports, if I would have dedicated myself and trained as hard as some of these people trained, I probably would have been world champion. You know, when I was playing football, here I was, this 6'6", 280-pound defensive end that could do a 4.6 40. You know, so I had all the natural gifts that an athlete would ever dream of having.
That's
I had the
nice.
mobility,
Yep.
I had the strength, I had the courage to play and do things to a professional level. You know.
So while you were in those sports or performing those, did you have a special diet that you were following, or did you got a favorite food that you tend to fall back on?
You know, I ate pretty healthy all my life. The worst thing that I did was I enjoyed drinking beer too much. You know, so
While you're biking, isn't it? No.
So you know, you just you know, there's certain things in your life that you have to be able to alter and change and stuff. And you know, being involved in my father's world. And being involved in the natural world, you know, you had to have a day job, or else the law would be looking down your throat, like, where are you making your money? What are you doing? So, you know, sports to me was a day job, you know.
Okay.
And then at night I would take care of union business and stuff like that.
Nice.
And, so you know, I mean, I might be out banging around doing things until like 2, 3 in the morning. Then I'd be up at 5, 6 o'clock to go run. To get to, you know, and then I go in the gym and sweat everything out of me and figure, oh man, I'm fine, I'm on top of this, right? And the next night you're out doing the same carousing again, you know. So I never, and I would, when I was 16-0 or 17-0 in boxing, and I couldn't box amateur because I played with the Jets and the Eagles in football, and so I was considered a professional. In those period of time, there was no hardship cases. So we couldn't play pro ball until your class graduated college.
Ah.
So we used to play like in a semi-pro league on the East Coast that I was attached to the Jets. So they had a team that, you know, we played for, but you were considered a professional. So when they came to me to box, because Ali won the title, and I said to some friends of mine in Philadelphia, you know, I could beat that guy. And they said, you know, that's a good idea. And they put me in the gym because I was a tough kid in the streets. Yeah. And so I wound up in the gym 6 months later on boxing. And after I had embarked on a very successful career starting out, I went to get a physical one day. And the guy said to me, "You're an Acromegala kid." And I said, "Yeah, great. What the hell is that? Can I fight or not?" And he said, "No, that's a tumor of the pituitary gland, and it's a very serious disease. And how do you even do this? because it causes depression and everything else. He said, how do you ever get in the ring even? He said, and this disease will kill you, so you got to do something about it. And
Wow.
of course, I brushed it to the side like things like that. I'm Superman. Don't bug me. I got
Yeah.
things to do. So
Little did you know you.
and I kept going, and and then I started taking fights on 2 days notice and 3 days
Oh, wow.
notice, because it put me in sections of the country that I could take care of other business, and that gave me an excuse to be there.
Wow.
And some days I wasn't mentally, really shouldn't have been in the ring and stuff. Physically I was okay, but mentally, and I had a great talent. I could do 10 rounds standing on my head,
Wow.
Yeah.
because I could fight. And so it just worked out to, at the end of the day, I was in San Diego, and I went out there. They called me on the phone. I was living in New Jersey, and we had several indictments over union business facing us. And they called me up on the phone. And they said, you want to fight Kenny Norton? I said, when? The guy said, next week. I said, send me a ticket. He said, you'll take the fight? I said, send me a ticket. I wanted to get out of town,
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
I went to San Diego, and I gave Nick Norton a great licking. In fact, that we really was a terrible. I won the city because I really beat him, and they gave him a decision. But
Nice.
I actually could have sat on a stool in the 9th round. It was a great fight. If you ever get a chance to get the tape of that fight, it was a brilliant fight. And in the 9th round, he and I were standing toe to toe, and people were standing on the chairs, screaming and yelling and shouting. So when they rang the bell, nobody heard it ring, and the guy rang it 3 times, and the referee finally separated us. And I was going back to my corner. He ran across the ring and hit me behind the head and drove me into the ring post. And Joey Almus, the commissioner, was sitting there, jumped up in my corner and said, if you can't continue, you just won the fight on a foul. And being I was fighting in his hometown and everything, I should have said, yeah, okay. But my anger got the best of me. And I said,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill this guy, man.
Oh,
And I get out in the middle of the 10th round. I'm saying, what am I doing, man? And he's bleeding like a pig. And I busted him up pretty good. And so he got a decision, but I won it. So I stayed there, and I knocked out a half dozen people and won the California title, and fought a guy, Henry Clark, that nobody wanted to fight, and beat him up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And so it was, all to the better. But the doctor down there, Bill Lundeen, was a good friend of mine, and he gave you your physicals for the fight. And he said to me one day, Jack, if you don't go to Scripps and get a workup on this acromegaly, he said, I'm pulling your boxing license, because this disease will kill you, and you're my friend, and I don't want to see that happen to you. So I went to Scripps, and sure enough, your body would pump out normally 10% growth hormone. Mine was pumping out 150%.
wow.
My skeleton in my body today is like 60 pounds heavier than it should be,
Oh my. Okay.
because of the thickness of my bones and stuff. And, and I'm probably about 4 inches taller than I should be,
Okay.
because of the size
Because
of
of
my
the growth,
vertebrae
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, so I went, and I said, well, okay. So then Scripps, if I went in and got it fixed at Scripps, they would have went up through my mouth, and they take the gland out, and you're on hormone pills the rest of your life, because the pituitary governs your whole hormonal system.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they had a great doctor up in Boston, Mass General, who had a new procedure called the cyclotron proton machine, which is, it's a laser that didn't burn you, but it caused an inner explosion in the tumor. And I went up there, and this guy bolted this thing to my head, and bolts you to a machine so you don't move, and
Right.
zapped. And I was one of
Right.
1,000 that the thing for the first time zapped out and knocked the thing right out of the box. And
Great.
Oh, cool.
and so I was supposed to stay in the hospital for the next 2 weeks while they did follow-up surveys, because they wanted all the documents, on this new procedure. And 3 days later, I checked myself out of the hospital, drove down to Baltimore, and fought the number 2 heavyweight Middleton in Baltimore, Maryland. The guy
That's
said, "You did what?"
I mean, because
the
why
doctor-
wouldn't you? That only makes sense,
Right.
Well, I stopped in Philadelphia and worked out 2 days, and then I
Really
drove
young.
down to Baltimore.
Oh, boy.
So I trained like 2 days for that, and that was my last fight. And after that, the guy told me, he said, you're taking your, are you crazy? He said, you just had this major surgery done in your brain. And are you nuts or what? So I figured,
possibly.
well, and Farewell My Lovely was offered to me, and I figured Hollywood was something I should probably do, and made Steve McQueen happy and everybody else happy. And here I be. So I blame it all on Robert Mitchum.
So as they say, the rest is history.
All right.
So I got a couple questions for you here about your days in the Superman movies. Now, earlier you talked about, the choice of how to play Non as a mute and why you did that. But playing somebody without verbal communication and having to do it through physical means is a very taxing and difficult thing to do. So what challenges did you find having to go into that role that way? What difference does it make for you?
In real honesty, I enjoyed it because it gave me a chance to be a kid.
Okay.
I actually really got into it, being this jubilant, and the way that I was brought into acting and the things that Mitchum taught me, and the ability that I had, acting's all about one word. It's called presence.
Okay.
Either the camera likes you or it doesn't.
Right.
Exactly.
And I was very fortunate the camera likes me,
Good. All right.
And you could do, which means when you have a presence, it's like Marlon Brando or Mitchum or Gregory Peck could do any movie in the world, and you would say, boy, Brando was great at that, or Brando was great at this, and then you get a real fine actor who would do a role, and you'd be walking out of the theater and you'd say, boy, he was really good. What was his name?
Yeah.
Guys like Bill Holden.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Who were good actors, but they didn't have that presence,
Yeah.
Right.
and presence was the whole 9 yards. And God gave me that gift,
All right.
and so it helped me. So when I do something, I walk on a set and I do what I got to do, and I walk off and I'm laughing and joking to myself. Some people carry it around with them. Method actors, they get into being that character, and, and they stay that way all day. And I don't know how they do that, but Jeff Bridges.
Right. For 6 months of shooting, that's who they are.
Well, a few friends of mine, they act like that, It's so it just. But I don't know. Acting came very easy to me.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun with it.
So I also, not about Non, I'm going to ask you a different question here real quick, but this has to do with the movie Rocky. Now, I read in a couple different spots that the movie Rocky is loosely based on your beginnings and professional career. How accurate is that?
I did a movie, Farewell My Lovely, and in the movie was a guy called Sylvester Stallone, and he came out to Hollywood with Joe Spinell, who brought 4 or 5 New York actors in to do bit roles in Farewell, and he did it for other movies. They all came as a group, and Stallone was writing his boxing script, and he grabbed me and he picked my brain every day.
Yeah,
because he didn't know Philadelphia. I told him about who I was and the waterfront and the fact that I was a gangster fighter, and I was controlled by the mob for a period of time, and I explained Philadelphia to him, and one of the telltale deals is that in the morning when he got up and he was cracking eggs and putting them in the blender.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've done that for 60 years. I still do it every morning. I had 4 eggs this morning. Raw eggs, I eat them every day, and I've done it for years. And I told him about that.
Oh, funny. Okay.
But, so some of the things that he did made me laugh because he depicted like he was living in South Philadelphia, but the gym, which was the exact same building that we worked out at Passyunk and Moore, it was up on the 3rd floor, and the building looked the same and everything. He placed in North Philadelphia, so they changed a few things around to try to avert, but yeah, it was my life that he was playing with,
Cool.
Fun.
All right.
God bless him. He's, I think Chuck Wepner sued him and got a lot of money from him because Chuck was the bleeder. from Bayonne, you know.
Okay.
I was the hoodlum from Philadelphia.
That's cool. I had read that and I had thought that was pretty accurate, but sometimes you just want to ask.
No, it's true. It's a very true story. Every
That's
day
cool.
he would pick my brain every day, about boxing, about
That's
this,
awesome.
about that, and
So-
because I was signed to fight Ali, and I would, and I was, like I'm in like 3 or 4 boxing Hall of Fames and stuff, and he just, oh man, you got to tell me about this and that.
So what you might not know is that we have a very large Facebook group that follows us. We have our Facebook group right now is about just under 93,000 group members. We like to call them fans, but so we let it be known that we were going to be talking to you, and we asked if there was any silly questions that they would like to ask Non. And here's a group one from our group member. His name is M. Jonathan Garzillo. He asks, stated rather, many people don't realize that the henchmen unionized many years ago. Most off-world henchmen are represented by the Henchmen, Lackeys, and Toadies Local 452 and have a very competitive pension and benefit plan. Non himself spent 4 years in the 70s as the 452 shop steward. So he asks, what's your greatest memory as being one of Zod's henchmen? Was it the long strolls through space in the space foil that Superman locked you into? Or was it the years as the shop steward for the local 452?
Well, if I was in the shop steward, I wonder where my pension's at.
Right? There we go. Yeah, this
I mean,
is competitive.
I was involved with several unions, but I never knew that one.
Right?
I mean, Hoffa was a dear friend of mine, but I don't think Hoffa ever represented that union.
Yeah, hey, you might want to get a hold of Garzillo. He says that there's a competitive pension and benefit plan waiting.
Yeah,
So.
I'd like to know where mine's at then.
That's awesome.
Well, we have a little bit of game if you're game for it. What we did is we took our 92,000 member group and we asked some questions on how they think Zod would have, or excuse me, Zod, not Zod, Non. Those single syllable names get me every time. How Non would have viewed these things, and most of them are pretty silly. So we're going to warn you that right up front. But what we do is it's kind of like a Family Feud thing where if you guess the most popular answer, you get 3 points. Second most popular, you get 2 points. And if you get the third most popular answer from the 3 that we give you,
Well, you got to realize that Non was lobotomized here, so
I know. So
I should get points for that alone.
That's
exactly.
right.
So if you get 7 points, you're going to go ahead and get one of our. I gave the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund. There's a running gag that the guys in Star Trek that wear the red shirts always get knocked off. And if you get 12 points, you're going to get the mug along with my book that I wrote, which is a parody of that type of movie called Custodians of the Cosmos. It's those who boldly go to clean up after those that boldly just went. So I had a little fun with that. It was a #2 bestseller. No, I wish it was. But now we do have a little bit of a penalty if you don't do very well. We're going to go ahead and make a funny picture, a meme with the character you played and put it in our group as kind of as a light punishment. So just have a little fun with you. How does that sound? Do you agree to the terms?
Sure, not a problem.
All right.
All right. So here we go.
Start you
Now,
off.
do I answer it in vernacular or do I just grunt?
you can grunt 1, 2, or 3.
1, 2, or 3. You can grunt.
However you choose to answer, as long as we understand it.
That's right.
So, question 1: if you could see Non from Superman do a song from Broadway style musical, which would it be? Did our group members say that it would be Putting on the Ritz from Young Frankenstein, I Feel Pretty from West Side Story, or the main theme from Phantom of the Opera?
Wow.
So Putting on the Ritz, I Feel Pretty, or Phantom of the Opera.
Which got the most votes from our people.
Which do you think our people picked as the most popular?
Putting on the Ritz, probably.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
Right.
Great. You got it. 3 points.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that would be cool too. So, question 2: what is Non's opinion of Kal-El, aka Superman? Did our group say he still carries his baby blanket? Is he just a dude with a superhero complex? Or 3, do you think he only needs a pair of glasses to disguise himself?
He thinks he only needs a pair of glasses to describe it.
Yep, you got it again. Number one answer.
2 for
That's
2.
awesome.
You know.
You know our group really well.
All right, question number 3. Why didn't Nan and Ursa defeat Zod themselves? So our group suggested, was it did they think it was because there was too much brawn, not enough brains? Or did they say they were told that there would be snacks and there wasn't any? Or Nan thought that single syllable names needed to stick together? Too much brawn, not enough brains. Were they told there would be snacks, or did they think single syllable names needed to stick together?
What did our group say?
So what did our group say? This one was
that's
out there.
interesting. I like that one. That's
I know, right?
that's
Why didn't?
what was the third? What was the third answer?
They thought single syllable names needed to stick together, so Zod and Nan stuck
Ursa
together.
defeat Zod.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably that's right. Probably they thought everybody ought to stick together.
That was
they
our
didn't
number.
really do. They didn't do snacks too well.
No. Well, actually, that was our number 3 answer. Snacks was
Snacks
number
was
1.
actually
People
their
must have
number
been
one.
hungry when they
Yes,
took the
apparently.
test.
I was going to say that, but we never did eat a meal together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So
There's
so-
only 5 questions. This is question 4. What did oh, there it went. Sorry. What did Zod, Ursa, and Nan do in the superfoil prison that Superman locked them in? Did our group say they plotted their revenge, knit each other's sweaters, or karaoke?
Karaoke.
I know.
Yeah.
right?
There you go.
You got it. That was
He's
number
nailing this.
1. Yeah. So 3 points.
They weren't locked in with sweaters.
Yeah. Where did they get the yarn? You know.
All right. So our last one, question 5. If Nan were to be a spokesman of a product, would it be Just for Men, Hooked on Phonics, or Chia Pets?
What was the last one?
Chia Pets.
Those little plants that grow hair.
Those little plants you spread the butter on, then it grows hair everywhere. So yeah, so it'd be Just for Men, Hooked on Phonics, or Chia Pets.
Just for men.
Yes.
Yep, you got it.
You
again.
nailed it.
Awesome. Well, you get both the book and the
13.
mug, so you did great.
Yeah,
You
so
nailed
many
it.
so many people in our group were commenting on not only the thickness and well manicured nature of Nan's beard, but also the massive amount of chest hair that was showing everywhere. So,
Right? Yeah. It was a manly man.
You
Yes.
actually had 13 points. So
Yeah.
that's really good.
You did great.
A lot of
So-
people don't get that much.
So
Well
thank you
done.
so much for
Yeah, that was fun.
having a little fun with us and taking part in our silly quiz.
Yes,
You're a good
Jack.
sport.
Not
Okay.
bad
Thank you
for a
so
guy
much.
lobotomized, huh?
yeah,
not
hey.
bad, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can people go to find more about your novels and your other works?
If you go to familylegacythenovel.com.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anywhere else to find your works or anything other than
Anything about
Yeah,
your
or
current
just
project?
Google me, you know.
Google
Okay.
you? Okay.
we can
It
do
seemed
that.
to be all over the place on Google, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
I
throw
found
in an
it.
Yeah, we
IMDb
found
link.
yeah. We'll be
Yeah, we'll
sure
throw
to
in an
place
IMDb
those.
link to make sure that they can see your movies and things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be sure to place those descriptions so people can find you and all your other works.
Great. Now, one thing for our viewers and listeners, remember that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do to ensure that we get more amazing guests like Jack here and more funny moments that you can listen to. Please subscribe. Please check out Jack's work. Always feel free to contact us where it all began on our Facebook group, the Funny Science Fiction.
If you're not happy with the show's content today, just let us know. For every complaint we receive, we're going to donate 4.3 cents to a scene-for-scene recreation of the Star Wars Holiday Special. It's going to be cringe-tacular.
Oh, that was cringeworthy. Yes. And now our ending quote for this week comes from Isaac Asimov. It says, "Those people who think they know everything are a great annoyance to those of us who do." Thanks again, Jack, for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Jack.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jack.
everyone,
Thank you
for
guys.
watching.
Have a
Thanks,
great
Ian.
day.
Now, it would be illogical if we failed to mention our charity, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, because as we all know, in episode 142, just 5 minutes and 27 seconds into the show, red-shirted Starship crew members will probably die after accidentally landing on planet XO3 and fighting with Rux androids. But thanks to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, their families aren't left without hope.
Please remember our fictional charity, Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, is connected to a very real charity And your purchase of Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund merchandise allows us to donate 100% of profits of sold merchandise to the awesome folks over at Wish Upon a Teen. They help kids have a more comfortable stay in hospitals when their stay becomes extended. Let's not forget to help our neighbors in this time of need.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.